All right, Eastern Bloc Airguns is back. This time with a scope comparison review. I'm going to be comparing 3 similar scopes in 3 very different price ranges. I've had a lot of experience with all 3 of these scopes and feel there's a lot of things people should know about these 3 types of scopes and these 3 different price ranges that has not really been discussed much on YouTube, very little. So I figured I'd better put the information out and may possibly save you guys some money. So there'll be 3 different scopes. First scope enters the $500 price range, and this is going to be my go-to scope, which I've had for 2.5 years now. I got for about $450 on sale, and it is a 3x15 by 42 objective, SWFA, first focal plane, and MOA. So here you go. The second scope enters about the $1,000 scope range. I think it retails for like $8.99 on the webpage. It is Athlon Eris BTR 2.5 by 15 by 50 millimeter objective. This one is also in MOA and in first focal plane. And the last scope, which is my most recent scope that I've been working with a lot lately, is the TRACT Ultra HD. Now this scope has German shot glass in it, which most people know is just amazing glass. And the reason I just decided to buy this scope was because of the glass primarily, because I wanted to check that shot glass and see what it is like compared to the other scopes. Now this scope is 4x20, but I'll be doing all testing in 15, which is what the other 2 scopes are. And this is a 4x20 by 50 also objective in MOA and in first focal plane. And this scope retails for about $1,350, rounding up with taxes and shipping, probably right around $1,500 if you pay top dollar for it. So we have a $500 scope versus $1,000 roughly versus roughly $1,500, just to make the numbers even. So I'm going to start this review off by showing you guys a video of the clarity of the scope cam footage of the scope clarity. I'm going to do that by taking each scope and zooming in to 3 pigeon decoys, one at 50, one at 75, one at 100. Then I have up a movie poster. My intentions were to show color from the movie poster and then show the people's facial features. I was thinking each scope can maybe pick out the facial features differently, but that didn't really work out. I'll show you why. So when you watch a video, I'm just going to be focusing, I'm going to explain things by focusing on the 50-yard pigeon and then the 100-yard pigeon. I'm going to focus on features of those 2 pigeons to better explain what each scope does. Now, none of these scopes really, I can't really do them justice by my camera and my side mount or my side shot. My side shot's getting old. There's got some scratches. I need a new one. My camera's old, but you can compare. It's good enough to compare each scope at each level. It's clarity. You'll be able to see a difference. So just watch close. Enjoy the video. All right, I hope you all enjoyed that footage. At least enjoyed the music. I don't know, I picked the most relaxing music. But anyway, so let's go over some of the similarities of scope. All these, the only real similarities to scope, these scopes, all three have, is that they're all in MOA. They're all first focal plane, and they all have a 30mm tube. Roughly, that is it. You know, the SWFA is the smallest objective, and as you can see from this photo, I'll put my photo over here. This photo, as you can see, that the vignetting, they call it, around the edges suffers with the SWFA. It's hard to get the box, it's hard to get the camera all lined up, it's more difficult. And if you don't get everything perfect, or your eye perfect, you see the edges of where the scope come in kind of degrade. And I think that's not because of the glass, that's because it's a smaller objective. And I noticed another thing is that all of my SWFA don't have the color of the other two scopes. They just, everything seems a little less colored. I mean, it's sharp, it's good, the clarity is good enough. It's sharp, but just, it's missing that popping color of the other two scopes. And here's the 50-yard footage of that pigeon. And watch this grass right here. Watch that grass compared to the other two. And then watch that spot on the pigeon. Right over here. I don't know where it is yet. And then the 100 yards. Look at the 100 yards pigeon's pattern. Here's that photo. Now, the faces, I was hoping people could see the facial features of that Stranger Things 3 movie poster that I bought just for this. I like Stranger Things, but I bought the movie poster just for this video. Now I'm just going to end up hanging in my room. But anyway, there's too much glare. I thought you could see the faces better and pick out facial features of all the characters, but that didn't work. Anyway, so forget about that. So look at that 50-yard pigeon again. And now look at that 100-yard pigeon that's compared to the Athlon Error. So now look at that. Here's the 50-yard pigeon on the Athlon Error. You see the grass? You see the color? Little sharper color. It maybe doesn't show it on film, but it shows it when you look at your eye. You can see the color is sharper on that scope. And it's the same Japanese glass, I believe. They're both, the glass is all Japanese, just is 50mm. So that extra 8mm of lens diameter really does, I feel, gather more light, makes the grass a little sharper and the color a little better. Now look at the 100-yard pigeon. You see a little more of a pattern on the pigeon? Can you see a little clearer? See the color? The vignetting's still good. Okay, and now let's check the Tornik. Now this is the German shot glass. Here's the 50-yard pigeon. It's a great reticle. I love that PRS reticle. Here's the 50-yard pigeon. Look at that grass. Look how much sharper that grass is. With this scope, I'm able to see blades of grass. I'm able to, amazing. Doesn't show it on film, but you can see the grass is clearer. Look at that spot on the pigeon. There's a white spot and a black spot. You can much clearly see that. And now look at the 100-yard pigeon. Look at that. Look at that color. Look at that color. Oh my gosh, it's even darker. I did this scope last. It was right probably an hour before dusk. And there's probably a 45-minute span between the SWFA and the TRACT scope. So it's supposed to pick up less color, but look at that color. Oh my God. Look. Now look at that 100-yard. See the pattern on that 100-yard pigeon? Look at that. Ooh, amazing. Anyway, so next next part of it, the differences between these scopes, first I'll go on the reticles. All right, next section is on the reticle. I better spend time on each one of these reticles and explain the benefits and the shortcomings of each. So the first is the SWFA. Now this is a clean floating dot, I call it. Does not have a PRS reticle, does not have a Christmas tree, any holdover points, just an X with MOA markings. And this has a floating dot, which I really feel floating dots you're able to zoom closer into your target. If you can see that dot, you can really precisely put it on where you want to aim. That I really enjoy. But the one part I don't like particularly about this gun, it's not a deal breaker, it's so minute, but I have to say it. It's like I cannot get 100% of the parallax error out of any of my SWFAs. If you guys don't know, a parallax error is when you move your head up and down and back and forth, the reticle moves from relationship to the target. And I messed with the scope, all my SWFAs a lot, and I can't get 100% out. I can get it really close to completely gone, but just never completely. So it takes a lot more screwing around than the other two scopes. And another big obvious one is this one is not illuminated. You know, I never thought I needed an illuminated reticle. Well, I still don't think I need one, but when I want one and it's not there, it kind of sucks. When you hunt right at dusk and you see a target or see an animal and it's so dark and you put that dark crosshair on it and you can't see if your crosshair is even on it, that sucks. And so that's the big difference. So you don't pay for that. You don't have 100% parallax error gone. And you don't have illuminated reticle with this $500 scope. Now this Athlon, it has a different reticle. This one has a Christmas tree, but it doesn't have a floating dot. It has an X, which I don't really like, because with the floating dot, you can exactly put that dot where it needs to be. With the X, it's kind of some air there. You're not exactly sure. Is it right in the middle of it? Is that X right in the middle? And I don't like that. Even though I think this reticle's thinner, a little clearer, the lines, it's still tougher with that X to exactly put it on the spot you want. But you can get all air gone. All parallax error is gone out of this one. So that's a plus. And the illumination is nice, has 10 different modes. I really like that. Now this one has, for a first focal plane, this reticle is so sharp and fine. I can't believe it. When I put on 20 power, I thought the reticle would be way bigger, but it is small. It's like shooting a thin, fine first focal plane or a second focal plane scope with a perfect reticle. Like, you see it, it's crazy. I couldn't believe how good it is. And then it has this PRS, which is brand new for this scope, a floating dot and PRS, which I really didn't think I needed PRS, but those moments where you see like a pigeon, you know it's going to fly, you don't have time to dial, you can just line the holdover and the windage up quickly out on those dots and boom, fire. And at $1,000 and $1,500 price point, it's good to have all of that, everything. That's what the reticles have. So, and then the illumination on this one also is like 10 different steps, and super low, dark to super high, bright light. It works perfect. All right, in conclusion, I'm going to answer the question that many people are probably wondering. Is the accuracy or the performance of these two scopes, between this $500 scope and this $1,500 scope, what is the performance and increase in accuracy that each one of these scopes provides at these price ranges? This one is 3 times more than this one. So is there going to be 3 times more performance out of this one? Or this one could be double the performance out of this one? Well, before I answer that question, I got to explain how I came to this conclusion. All right, I test all my guns, all my scopes, all my bipods now by shooting 10 millimeter targets or 10 meter pistol targets at 100 or 50 yards. And I test them over and over. These are extraordinarily small targets. I've been testing each one of these scopes at 100 yards with my most accurate air rifles. And I've been scoring points. Each one of the rifles I take and I record all the shootings and add up the numbers. I shoot 2 of these targets and add it up, and I usually, depending on the wind, I score between, let's say, take my Matador R5. But depending on the wind, I score between 60 and 120 points on average on each day I shoot. Now, just to give you a perspective, this is the regular bench rest airgun rifle target, and this is the 10 meter target. I am shooting at something that, if I hit the outer edge, is only going to be an 8. If I hit the inner, it's probably going to be a 9. If I don't hit any of it, if I get a 7, it's a 0. So that's how I'm testing. And after adding all these up, what is there a difference? Let's see here. About a week ago, I shot my R5M in practically 0 wind, and I was shooting with BTR Ares on that day. I mounted it and zeroed it, and I scored a 113. And then a couple days later, I shot, where is that one? The SWFA in close to 0 wind again, or it actually says 0 exactly. And I shot a 116. And then just 2 days ago, I put on my TRACT scope and shot several times. 115 and 114 back to back. And I looked at these scores over and over again, compared them, broke them down the windy days, compared them. Is there a difference? From my findings, this is where people are going to be pissed, scope companies in particular, but there is not a noticeable difference between this $500 SWFA and this $1,500 TRACT. Both scopes perform great. They perform about the same. If there is a difference, it's so minuscule that I can't really honestly tell you there is, when it comes to bench rest, that is. But now when it comes to hunting, that's a different story. This thing, to be able to find that sight picture, like boom, that clarity, to be able to pick out your quarry much quicker, see the colors of the quarry quicker, see everything is just so much more pleasant with this scope when you're out using it. So a lot of people would never spend this kind of money on this, but I'm at the point in my life where even though they perform roughly the same from what I can tell, this one is just more enjoyable for me to have. I'm so impressed by this glass. This one is just, it does its job perfectly just like the other ones, but it just doesn't have that pleasant feeling to it. It's a military scope. It was made for the military. It's kind of what I feel SWFA is kind of like. It's like the AK-47 of scopes. No thrills, no pleasantry, nothing about the scope just stands out, but it's just so rugged and it's so, just does the job so well that it's like the AK-47 of scopes. It really is. Like, I'm so impressed with SWFA. Like, it just proves, like, if you have the money, this is enjoyable. If you can save for one of these, this one performs. And when you have time to shoot and you have time to focus it, they perform about the same. It's $1,000 more, but I can still get about the same performance out of them. So I hope that helped. I mean, that's the question I was looking for when I started buying these scopes. How much do they perform? If they're the same magnification, how much does the clarity matter? It does matter, I think, but it's such at a minuscule amount. Like 2 different air gunners that I know of that are very highly respected. One is this guy, Southern Air Gunner. One is this guy, the American Airgun Hunter, Jim Chapman. They both put on cheap, they have a $2,000 rifle and put on like a $200 UTG scope. Because they know this. I think they know this, that I remember one of Southern Air Gunner's videos, he said, I buy a scope to see my target. I don't have to see it clearly. I don't have to see every single hair, every single molecule, every single blade of grass or whatever. If I can see the target, I can put the crosshairs on and it's going to go down, which he knows that. And that's why he puts on $200 scopes on $2,000 guns. It doesn't feel bad, one bit bad. Me, I don't know. I'd rather spend my money on some glass. So I hope that helps some of you. I hope it's okay to use those guys in this video. They're one of my favorite air gunners. Please give me a thumbs up if you found this information useful. Till next time, see ya.